evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Grid Championship, brought to you by RaceFace and Mettlestate. And what a time to be alive as we're racing around the Circuit of Americas, and one of the newer circuits that has been brought to the COTA Competizione server. Joining me in the booth is, like always, the world's slowest alien, Yannaman Price. Yannaman, how are you this evening?
Good evening, Stephen. Good evening, everybody. I'm doing fairly well. Glad to have you back, seeing that I had to fly solo a bit last night.
Oh, fortunate things do happen, but back, and glad to be back. And it's going to be pretty interesting. Now moving on to COTA, drivers are ready to rock and roll. New round, new challenge, and a chance for people to start trying to climb up through the ladder.
Yeah, COTA for me, Circuit of the Americas, it's a difficult one. As I said last night, I'm going to say it again, what I tend to do around this circuit, I slam that car as hard to the tarmac as it will go, you know, just to try and make it stick through all these tight and twisty bits. And, you know, unfortunately you lose out a bit on this long back straight that we see here, but I tend to find more time through the twisty bits. And interesting about last night, you could clearly see that some of the cars had more downforce on them down that back straight. People being able to keep in front of other people even though they were in the tow. So let's see how this turns out tonight. I think it's going to be an interesting one again. Last night we saw GT3 cars going side by side through this section. So looking forward to it.
Well, we've also got to take a look and remember that this is only round number 3 of our 8-round championship for that prize pool of 10,000 Rand, which every single one of these drivers are looking to go for. And what better way to head off into Christmas than having a shot at that 10,000 Rand prize pool, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace for the Grid Championship. Also, being round number 3, we do have some changes in the championship. And Yannaman, why don't you take us through who's where in the championship?
Well, leading out the championship, and you know, is Morgan McCall. And what I want to say is, you know, Morgan struggled through the early parts of the previous season, and then he started picking up momentum, and it really looks like he's carried that momentum through to this season. Then in second place we got Cody Sherritt, our winner from the last season. Ryan Otten's in third place. Then Daniel Rowe, fourth place. So it does look like Daniel, you know, is, I don't know if he's struggling a bit, maybe with a new car, but let's keep an eye out on him through the rest of the season. Maybe, you know, he will start picking up some momentum. Fifth place, Bernard Barkhuizen. Sixth place, Tristan de Nobrega. Then we've got Nkubi in seventh place. Bago Groblo, who had an excellent race last night, fighting it out with Barkhuizen and Minnar. Ninth place, Kieran Patterson. And then in 10th place, we've got Philip Minnar.
Well, we're going to be taking a look at some interesting strategies here this evening. 2 mandatory pit stops needed by all the drivers to be able to finish the race without any penalties. The thing to consider is what you're going to do with tires. As we know, this circuit loves to eat those front tires out and really rip them apart. As we take a look at Sujin Pillay as he turns in, you can see just going out a little bit wide, having to catch the car a little bit, and Morgan chasing him down in the background. But you can see how much work is going on to those tires if they're trying to get things all right as they battle their way through the Circuit of Americas.
Yeah, you know, it's a fine line that you're treading here. You know, if those front tires start going, you're gonna lose lap time, and I'm pretty sure all the guys on track tonight have done more than enough testing to know, with their specific setup, more or less when that's going to start happening. Now, with the different driving styles and so forth, it might happen at different stages during the race. Myself, my driving style, you know, I tend to be hard on the front tires, and they tend to go out quite quickly.
And also a shout out to everyone. We are streaming on multiple platforms tonight, such as YouTube under RaceFace.Pro, so feel free to hit subscribe and hit that like button if you enjoy what you're seeing, and also at Mettlestate on Twitch, so go and look up Mettlestate on Twitch, go and hit the follow button, And if you feel like subscribing, hit it as well. They've got lots going on. But taking a look at who's standing where at the moment, it is Ryan Otten's leading out with a 205.712. I'm going to add that there because Cody Sherritt went and matched him doing a 205.720 as to hold that second place. Then Gideon Reyna doing 205.890. I mean, that shows you how close these guys are keeping to one another. Only when we start looking at fourth place where it's running a 205.9, sixth and fifth place doing a 206.0, we start to see those lap times start crashing down as everyone's really trying to hammer it around the circuit and just trying to find the groove. This is a circuit that really does test you on how far you're willing to go, how far you're willing to push, and also to keep the rhythm as you go through the S's. And as our drivers are making their way through, you can see it's a bit of a left, it's a bit of a right. You've got to coast it through, changing down the gears gently, keeping the tail in check. You don't want to slide it too much, as we see Mac van der Merwe busy sliding it around. And that slowly hammers those front tires and those rear tires. It does favor your mid-engine vehicles a lot more than your front engines, such as the Aston Martin, the Mercedes, and the big BMWs. But the mid-engines do lose out when it comes to the more sweeping corners, as the front engines can carry a lot more momentum. Hard braking, this is where everyone tends to miss the apex as they make their way through, because it's so easy to do. The apex is a very late apex. You have to look a little bit deeper into the corner and sling it in. So you've got to straighten it up as much as possible before you slam on the anchors and try and get that car neatly into the corner.
Yeah, and another thing about the front engine cars is, and we saw it last night, and you know, especially through this section after the long straight, especially out of this right-hander, that Aston Martin, they're struggling to get the power down through this section, and you know, that rear end just every now and again just wants to step up and step out, and you know, they just lose a little bit of drive compared to the front wheel drive cars. And as we see the Audi there going over the curbs, that actually happened quite a lot last night. The guys running wide, you know, those big curbs on the outside, you know, the cars jumping over them, and can't be too good for the suspension.
That tends to make life a little bit more interesting, I would think, as we take a look. Ryan Otten's doing a 205.517. Cody Sherritt going and doing a 205.720. So just losing out right behind the likes of Ryan Otten's at the moment, but still pushing hard for the PWSR camp and hoping to make an impact, as we can see on board as they make their way through. And you can see how much turning angle they actually need to get the car all sorted out. A little bit of correction through the corners just to try and settle it. This is where it gets a bit tricky. As you'll notice, it's a very, very late apex they've got to go for. Swing it in, catch it, get back on the power, not to run too far wide, otherwise you will land up with some track limits issues. 20 corners to remember, ladies and gentlemen, 20 corners, and heading into turn 1 is a 30-meter climb into the air before you hit the brakes. So that tells you how they've made the circuit as a bit of a challenging circuit, and being the Circuit of Americas, it's to go and push only the best of the best to the top of the field, and that's what we're going to see from our South Africans racing here this evening in the RaceFace Grid Championship.
And absolutely, Stephen, you were talking about turn 1, and it would actually be nice to ride on board with some there as they go through turn 1, that you can see it's actually a blind corner. You know it's there, but as you enter it, you can't actually see the apex or the exit when you are on the apex. So you know, that's something that you'll have to learn with repetition as you go through there. Where exactly does the track go?
Well, we're going to take a look as Bernard makes his way around the corners. You can see just fighting tooth and nail, a little bit on the brake, a little bit on the throttle, trying to get the car all sorted out as they make their way through. A little bit onto the bumps, but sideways action does not help and kill some momentum through this right-left-hander. Sujin Pillay off to the right-hand side, just running out a bit wide. Very easy to do. And now they get back onto the throttle, aiming down towards turn 11, hard on the brakes. You got to really keep tight and then get back on the throttle long straight away before you're reaching turn 12 and 13 just ahead. Turn 12 is going to be a left-hander. 3 minutes and 57 seconds left of this qualifying. This straight is absolutely a killer. Going up into 6th gear, trying to carry the momentum through, hard onto the brakes, into turn 12. Gotta try and keep it all neat. Now heading towards turn 13. Then you got your double apex where you catch the first one. Here comes turn 14. Some people, like myself, go a little bit too early there. And you can see, just getting the flow wrong can land up in a world of hurt. So you have to try and remember where everything goes as they power their way through. Bernard now making his way around turn 17, 18, heading towards turn 19, and then onwards to turn 20. So it's a quick down the gears, 3rd gear, carry on the throttle, really push as hard as you can, and down the gears again into 1st gear, get back onto the power through turn 20 and up our straightaway. And this is where you're going to see the climb that we were talking about 30-meter climb. As we've seen in Formula 1, we've seen in GT racing, this is a bit of a tricky situation. Very easy to go and George Russell it against someone else and making his way through. Bit of a daunting climb to get all the way to the top.
Yeah, I mean, it's turn 1 at Circuit of the Americas, I'm going to be honest, is for me personally, you know, one of the most difficult turns on any track. And it's a turn that I get wrong more often than not. The second one is the second last corner, that sweeping left-hander that we saw, and that's where I normally get into trouble with track limits. I run wide, you know, coming out of that corner, and you know, the stewards normally aren't too happy with me as I go through there.
And that's always the ones to keep an eye out for. So big welcome to everyone that is joining us here at the Grid Championship, brought to you by RaceFace and Mettlestate. Glad to have you guys here, both platforms, YouTube and Twitch, being utilized. Big thank you to all our sponsors. Without them, this all would not be possible.
You know, just qualifying draws to a close. We've got less than 2 minutes to go. You know, I see Cody Sherrod has taken over first place with a 2:05.475, but Ryan Otten's less than a tenth of a second behind. Is this a sign of things to come in the race?
Well, doing a 2:05.475, that's really on the money. And Ryan Otten's 2:05.517 was keeping ahead for quite a long time in the qualifying, but not able to carry it through. He's really pushing hard to try and do it, but he's not better on his time. One person that is better on their delta is Bernard Barkhuizen, slightly up on his delta, just trying to get back on. Is it going to remain in the positives as he makes his way around turn 20? No, doesn't look like he's able to get any better than that. So it still looks like Cody Sherrod, Ryan Otten's, Bernard Barkhuizen, Bagger Krobler is still trying to make his way through, but some guys just not having a good enough run. Cody Sherrod, though, is currently up on his delta, so hoping to get a little bit more pace out of this McLaren for the PWSR team. Really focusing on a hard charge. You could just see clean air behind him as they make their way around the course. And it's all about putting in that hard amount of laps to be done. Bernard Barkhuizen slightly up on his time. Looks like Ryan Otten's decided he's going to pit. He's done for the qualifying, not going to push it too hard, but Barkhuizen 0.3 up on his best, hoping to carry more pace through to get it to the end. So is Bago Krobler, 0.2 up on his last lap time. So the guys are really focusing on trying to improve their deltas at the moment, and it's turning into a bit of a difficult situation for the guys as they make their way through.
Yeah, I mean, if we have a look at this, the top 13 separated by less than a second. I mean, if you look at Barkhuizen 0.3, you know, Christian de Ploy 0.3, Krobler 0.3, Renner 0.4, then it runs 0.4 all the way down to 10th place. Well, Van der Merwe, you can almost say 0.5 behind. You know, 11th place, Daniel de Matos Preto. I hope I pronounced it right, Daniel. I mean, then we only move half a second. I mean, you can say the top 10 separated by half a second.
And that is showing the professionalism of our pro class, and this is why they're the best of the best in South Africa and looking to go all the way as they climb their way up. But a couple of the cars trying to make their way through. Bago trying to go a little bit quicker than his last lap time, opts not to make that happen. Let's take a look at who is going to be where at the moment. Cody Sherritt's in first place, Ryan Ott in second, Bago Krobler in third, Bernard Barkhuizen, Christian Deploy, Gideon Reyna in sixth place, Daniel Rowe in seventh. Eighth place is Morgan McCall, followed by the likes. Just seeing
Morgan just jumped to sixth.
Yep, Morgan's up to sixth, going in, pushing down Gideon Reyna to seventh. Eighth place, Daniel Rowe, Henry Meyer down in ninth place, Mac van der Merwe, Daniel Damastos Petro in 11th place, Christopher Radloff down in 12th, Jason McGregor, Alan Patterson, Peter Oosthuizen, Eric Kirstein, Ruben van der Westhuizen, Tristan de Norbrigger, Grant Sebastian, Sujin Pillay, Nicholas Manuel, and Nkube, who is currently trying to get a little bit up. He is up on his Delta, but unfortunately running out of time last minute. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head over to the advert while everyone starts lining up on the grid for round number 3 here at COTA. And we are back. Hope you got your cool drinks. Hope you got your popcorn, because we're here at COTA to make this all happen. Janneman, your thoughts heading into the race?
I mean, as I said it before, this is absolutely the worst time of the race for me, sitting on the grid. But, you know, a couple of guys losing a bit of ground to where they were last night, to the likes of Morgan McCall, which was on pole position. But this is a whole different race than last night. You know, I think it would be very interesting to see what strategies the guys come up with tonight. Who's going to play that long game? Who's going to, you know, do that early pit stop? Who's going to try and make their tires last the longest and push it deep into the race? So, Steve, I think this is a difficult one to predict.
That's it. As we take a look to our heli cam, big thank you to our heli in the air, going and filming out the two teammates, Christian Deploy and Morgan McCall, lining up against one another, hoping to get the jump. Cody Sherritt up in first place with Ryan Ottens crouching him on and looking to get ready to rock and roll for lap number 1 here at COTA. And there is a beautiful shot as the grid starts laying ready to go. Lights on. And lights off, and away we go. It's all about getting the power on. Ryan Otten's trying to do everything he can on the outside, moving across the side, so he's not going to make it stick as they all go through turn 1. Cody really going and bouncing his way through, trying to move up. Guys going off circuit at the moment, but as it looks like the field coming through, Ryan Otten's up into second place, managing to hold back Henry Meyer in his own little tussle at the moment, going to the middle of the circuit, trying to defend like there's no tomorrow. TTH, Team Triad Racing, hot stuff, now looking to try and hold back the likes of Gideon Reyna and Daniel Rowe. They're chasing him down, and you could see the likes of Christopher Radloff also trying to make his way through, and he's stuck right behind the back of Mac van der Merwe, who is really having a bit of fun for KSR Vibe as they make their way down into one of our hairpins. Absolutely. Oh, that looks like that might be one of the cars coming off. I'm wondering who that is. That might that actually might have been one of the ATK drivers of, just taking a look, Morgan's is still up there, so that has to be Deploy, who landed up catching it going sideways and losing out a lot of positions. So Christian Deploy now having to try and work his way back up.
Yeah, that's the problem, with having a moment this early in the race. You can be in first, second, third place, but very quickly can find yourself at the back of the grid, and now you need to, switch everything. Steve's strategies change, your whole mindset change, and there is still, an hour and 19 odd minutes to go in the race.
Also, 2 mandatory pit stops, which each of the drivers are going to have to do. You can see Morgan McCall getting all out of shape, losing out a bit of time there. A little bit of rubbing and racing as he tries to battle it out with Henry Mayer, and as he falls behind the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen as they power their way through. See how it's turning into a bit of a mission for all these drivers. Gideon Rayner dropping down. He's looking to still try and hold his position as he makes his way up. Begor Krobler down into 8th place. And you can see side-by-side action from all the drivers at the moment as they make their way back to turn 1, hard on the brakes. Begor just holding that inside line, and it looks like Gideon Rayner tried to undercut him there but couldn't make it stick.
Yeah, this early in the race, you are going to expect close racing, as we see Morgan McCall following Bernard Barkhuizen very closely, through these S's. Something you also need to be a little bit mindful of is following the car in front of you is that aero wash that you can pick up that will cause the front end of the car to just wash a little bit wide. You pick up a bit of understeer, and that can put you then under pressure a bit from the car behind you, but keep in mind the car behind you is sitting with exactly the same problem.
Well, Jason McGregor at this moment trying to move up through the field in that Hybrid Academy Honda NSX, and he's trying to catch up to his teammates up ahead. You can see just trying to figure out where's going to be the optimal braking is, where are you going to move up, how are you going to move up, and where you're going to go. So they all battle it out throughout the field.
We saw last night, passing is not always that easy at the Circuit of the Americas. You got your 2 big passing places, which is turn 1 and the corner they're going through now, or just went through the corner after the long straight. But, besides that, it's only 1 or 2 other corners where there's really a passing possibility. The rest of the track, Steve, like we go through here, is very much follow the leader, unless you are willing to take that risk and put your nose in there and run side by side with the person in front of you.
That's it. Now pit window is open. Now all the drivers have an opportunity to try and claw their way up. Morgan McCall going back onto the attack of Bernard Barkhuizen and Jason McGregor also looking to go onto the attack. Tristan de Norbrigger up on the inside and absolutely makes it stick on Peter Oosthuizen. Now gets a drive to make his way through the field. So guys making early moves at the start so far. Fastest lap time being a 2:06.4 set by this man over here, and that is Bernard Barkhuizen, who is getting pressured by the ATK driver Morgan McCall.
To set the fastest lap with Morgan running that closely behind you, that takes some doing. And what it's maybe telling me is Bernard's not keeping too much of an eye on that rear view mirror. He's looking at the track ahead and trying to catch up to the like of Ryan Ottens and Cody Sheridan in first place.
And you can see Mac van der Merwe on a bit of a pressure charge at the moment. A little bit further back through the field, Nicholas Manuel, who is of the ZA Racing M4, chasing down onto the back of Kirstein. You can see a lot of drivers keeping nose to tail on one another, keeping within arm's reach and hoping to just try and claw their way through the field. Just slowly but surely, it's all about timing your attack. But at this point now, you start trying to figure out when's going to be the optimal time to pit. When is going to be the best time to get into the pits, get yourself sorted out and get going once again.
As soon as my front tire starts going. and for me, I would be in a scenario, hoping I would make it at least halfway before that goes. But as I said earlier on, I'm pretty sure these guys did the long runs. They know when that time window is, when they're going to start losing time, losing lap time, because the car is now starting to understeer a bit more. Personally, I think, you know, the big engine rear wheel drive cars like the Aston we see on the screen here, they're going to suffer more than the rear wheel drive or the mid engine cars, you know, like the McLaren running in front of him there.
Now that is Cody Sherritt, who's trying his best to run away. Ryan Otten's doing the fastest lap time of a 2:06.1, so getting a little bit quicker, utilizing that toe and just trying to get onto the back of the McLaren as quick as possible. And take a look, guys having a bit of a problem further down. A couple of drivers actually heading into the pits to get an early one. There's Alan Patterson getting into the pits, Nicholas Manuel busy chasing him down into the pits, and a very beat up Peter Oosthuizen with the Venomworks Racing going and looking a bit scratched up.
Yeah, I don't know, you know, I think a lot of those early pit stops, that's strategy. You know, the guys, they want to get, those are the guys like me that wants to get that pit stop, you know, out of the window or out of the way very quickly. You know, maybe just a splash and dash because you've maybe fueled the car heavily at the start of the race, or you've short fueled the car. I don't like short fueling a car at the start of a race because, you know, you're running in the middle of a pack most of the time, so you're unable to, you know, take full advantage of that light fuel load.
And you can see still running line astern. Bago Krobler putting in the faster lap time, 2:06.097, taking just a fraction of time off the likes of Ryan Ottens, but utilizing the toe. We spoke about how powerful the slipstream can be. Well, he's literally 0.3 seconds onto the back and of the likes of Daniel Rowe ahead of him. His teammate, the Hybrid Academy team, hoping to force Henry Mayer into a difficult situation, who is from Team Tryhard, the sister team that is now trying to battle them out in the Audi, while Morgan McCall a little bit ahead, starting to run away.
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen, I'm just having a quick look at the chat, and we've got Robert Wentworth that says "Go Ryan." So I think you know, at this stage he is quite happy with Ryan Ottens running in second place, closely behind Cody Sherritt. I think he's rooting for first place there.
Just going and trying to figure out of who you two are going to support. Ryan Ottens and William Wentworth were a team not so long ago. They were in the ZAR racing camp that was set up by Tebo actually many years ago. It was part of the Kai K racing team, where they had Devin Delport, who we saw racing earlier in the season, and unfortunately not racing here at the moment. William Wentworth, his brother Robert Wentworth, all racing under the Kai K banner. It then got changed to the ZAR banner, and that was before Ryan Ottens went and moved over to the Hybrid Academy team, and so far been enjoying it.
I think, you know, well, certainly enjoying it, you know, running that closely behind Cody in second place. As we have a quick look at Dean Kabasa, I mean, first thing I can say about Dean, except for that, you know, for the fact that he's right on the tail of Oosthuizen there. I mean, Stephen, that is a pretty awesome looking livery of him there.
A bit striking, and got to make it work. Whoa, take a look at Pillay going very late on the brakes. That has literally botched up his corner a little bit, and standing on them a little bit too late for plans as he tried to go onto the back of Dean Kabasa. But that, I think if Dean checked his mirrors at that point, he would have got a little bit of a fright. But Chase Pillay is not hanging around in that Ferrari, and at the moment he's trying to make some moves to claw his way up through it.
Yeah, I mean, and closely followed by Van der Westhuizen. I mean, these three are having a proper battle. In the likes of Kabasa, Pillay, and Van der Westhuizen. I mean, they are going at it hammer and tongs, and you know, I always sit in awe when I see GT3 cars being able to follow each other this closely, especially around a track like Circuit of the Americans.
It's one thing to just get sucked up into another person's rhythm and lose out, and it looks like Van der Westhuizen actually losing out a bit of time. Dean Kabasa is starting to open up the gap just a fraction to the likes of Pillay, but it looks like Peter Wursthuizen going and pulling into the pits. He's going to get his mandatory pit stop out the way. A couple of the drivers just getting it all sorted out as we look up through the field. Tristan de Norbringer of RDSA going and clawing his way through. That's RDSA Spirit Invest. So glad to see that the Race Driving Academy, well, the Race Driver Academy South Africa team going and putting in the extra bit of work there. So Tristan hoping to bring the real life world of karting, which he's been involved in for quite some time, and move his way all the way through into the Sim Racing GT3, usually running a little bit higher, slightly out of the top 10 where he wants to be, but hoping to try and chase down this man over here, Daniel Rowe, who is in 6th place. The two of them are big friends with one another, but also main competition rivals. A little bit further up through the field, side-by-side action. Ryan Ottens and the likes of Cody Sherritt coming together. Cody just losing out that little bit more momentum. Carries a little bit more corner speed though. That has helped him just a fraction. You can see trying to go on the outside. Ryan Ottens going and getting right up behind them. Bernard Barkhuizen now joining the party as well, hoping to make it a 3-horse race.
Yeah, I mean, Sherritt and Ottens, they're keeping each other busy, and while they were keeping each other busy, that has allowed Barkhuizen to close up right behind them. And as we saw last night, I mean, Barkhuizen is not afraid at all, you know, to take off those gloves and, you know, take the fight to them. So I think Ottens will really have to watch those rear view mirrors, you know, so that Barkhuizen does not sneak through one way or another. The other option for Barkhuizen, you know, is just to hang back a bit and, you know, hopefully one of the front running two will make a mistake, but he's got Morgan McCall not far behind, 1.1 seconds behind him. That's not a lot. So, you know, maybe I think he will try to find his way past. Very difficult to do so when Sherritt and Ottens are running side by side, and very brave. You know, Ottens tucking in behind Sherritt, you know, following just through these S's, because this is not a part of the track when you want to run side by side.
Now a little bit further back, you can even see Daniel Rowe is in his own little tussle trying to make up a bit of ground. He's pulling Bego Krobler, his teammate, through, hoping to get past the likes of Henry Mayo, who has got no give at the moment, holding that position and trying to keep the teammates away from one another. Ryan Ottens, though, trying a little bit later on the brakes. You can see Bernard really outbraking himself going into that sharp hairpin. And now getting back onto the throttle. Cody trying to move across, so that's just to go and try and break the toe as they make their way by. Some beautiful camera shots of these GT3 cars here at Circuit of America for the Grid Championship round number 3. And what better way to have some hammer and tong racing than a mid-engine versus a front engine. You can see, oh, over the bumps we go as Ryan Otten's trying to get ahead of Cody Sherritt. These two completely duking it out with one another.
Yeah, and it was a second lap in a row where Sherritt just walked Ottens, you know, out to the outside of the track, forcing him kind of to go over those big curves, you know, hoping that would kill his drive a little bit, but doesn't look like it did. And now Barkhuizen getting involved in it, and he's going to go for some side-by-side action and getting past Sherritt.
So nails it past Morgan McCall, now looking to get onto the back of it. Do you think Sherritt at this moment is starting to think about conserving his tyres? It looks like Morgan actually diving into the pits rather to get himself sorted and try and undercut the front. But do you think that the likes of Cody Sherritt's just rather opting to protect the tyres a little bit?
It might be protecting the tyres a little bit, you know, thinking of the long game. I mean, this race is an hour and 20 minutes long, and we still got an hour and 5 minutes or so to go. So it's a lot different to last night's sprint race where it's start to finish racing. There are pit stops to take into consideration. You need to take into consideration that it's a lot longer race. So strategy definitely a big part of this. You know, so sometimes you will find the guys, you know, just hanging back a little bit to preserve those tires. Is Cody doing it at this stage? I don't know. He might think about it now that Barkhuizen has gotten past him, but I think, Steve, that will have to remain to be seen.
Then you got the likes of Henry Mayer, who's duking out with Daniel Rowe, with Bago Krobler constantly on the back of him. Christopher Radloff a little bit further behind, trying to chase him down. And looks like a very out of place. That's either Morgan McCall that seems a bit out of place. No, that is actually Christopher Deploy, who landed up spinning. He is really out of place. He's in 23rd at the moment and hanging it with the top 6.
Yeah, I mean, Christopher had that moment early on in the race, and that has set him back, quite far. And now he's in comeback drive mode, but not that easy to do when you're sitting, with the fastest drivers in South Africa. I mean, we saw the difference in times where the top 15 or top 13 was separated by a second. I mean, you're trying to get past guys that aren't exactly slow.
Well, if you take a look at Henry Mayer, he started in 9th and he's made his way all the way into 5th place. Daniel Rose started in 8th place, now moving into 4th place. And that gives you a bit of an understanding of how the position has changed. Christopher Radloff actually started in 12th and he is now up into 7th place. So making up quite a few positions there. Some people losing out, unfortunately, being the likes of Christian Deploy, losing out 18 positions from his start, from 5th to 23rd. And we got Daniel Di Matos Petro. I do apologize for butchering that terribly, going from 11th to 24th. So a couple of guys able to move up through the field, but other guys not so much, losing out a lot of time.
Yeah, I mean, and Stephen, I just want to say we're going to butcher that surname about another 24 times tonight. But the thing I'm looking at on the screen, Meyer Krobler, take 2. I mean, these guys were in one massive race last night, and here they are again behind each other, with Bago Krobler 0.2 of a second behind Meyer. So that's why I'm saying take 2 after last night.
Well, the likes of Christian, who has got Christopher Radloff right behind him. Christopher Radloff now just utilizing the toe, but Christian's got to realize that he's got blue flags, which means, buddy, you got to move out the way or make some space for the position behind you. Well, the leading position. You can't just go and decide to hang it out with him. You're going to have to open up that gap, and it's unfortunate where the position that you're in, it's the cards that you've got given, but you have to try and figure out what's going to be better for the race. And you can see just going and out braking himself, leaving a monstrous amount of gap, but it must be incredibly frustrating to be in that point.
I mean, that's unfortunate thing that happens when you have a bit of an accident at the beginning of the race. You do that pit stop, and all of a sudden you find yourself a lap down, getting swamped by the field that is at this stage running very closely together. So you're almost constantly under blue flag conditions, and that will slow you down even more.
Oh, person trying to make his climb back up in 17th position, going after Justin Lotus, is Morgan McCall. You can see Justin just trying to keep it all together in that BMW, hoping that he can just hold back the ATK driver. It's actually one of our closer battles that's currently happening on the circuit. But for how long can he keep Morgan McCall at bay? Well, it all depends. With a bit of a right foot, you can see Morgan now straight up into that toe, pulling himself along, looks up to the inside. Please do not rustle it. We can't have a rustle and science moment. But we got professionals here, so don't expect it. There we go. No rustle moment there.
And going on the cutback there. So definitely not done with that pass as he eventually makes it stick. But Lotus is gonna keep on his backside as they go through the S's, moving along now to Christopher Radloff, and he's got Renner and Bago Krobler around him for some company, as I see Bago now with the fastest lap of the race, so he's also not hanging around.
Christopher Radloff opting to just try and keep the momentum behind Bago Krobler, and it looks like another driver, that is Kylian Reino, managing to get past Deploy. looking to try and go after these guys. Gideon Reyna from the Kinetic Sim Works Racing Vibe team, hoping to vibe it out here at COTA, with Christopher Radloff actually taking on his teammates a little bit. The Hybrid Academy drivers deciding to go a little bit gloves off. Bego Krobler going on the defense, while he's got the likes of Christopher Radloff right up his exhaust, trying to force a mistake.
Yeah, doesn't look like there's too much of team orders there, except for don't crash into each other if they're duking out this closely. And still early in the championships, even we're not even close to being halfway, so these guys are still fighting it out, trying to basically stomp down their authority in this championship. So and I think it's only later on in the championship where there might be a bit more, if I want to say, teamwork involved.
Well, there's Eric Kirstein as he makes his way through, currently lying in 12th position at the moment, and just trying to keep the momentum up. Dean Cabasa with a beautiful side shot of his car as he makes his way up the hill. You can see on board going into turn 1 and how blind the corner is as he's chasing down Sujin Pillay just ahead of him. And that really does show you of how difficult this circuit really is.
Yeah, I mean, this first section after turn 1, as they go through these S's, that each corner is tighter than the previous one, so you're actually decelerating, downshifting, sometimes a little bit on the brakes as they go through this left-hander. Now the next right-hander, you need to keep the car very tight to the right-hand apex to open up this left-hander so that you can accelerate through it. Otherwise you lose a tremendous amount of time. But at this stage, Cabasa trying to close down that gap on Pillay, roughly about 1.1 seconds behind. He's trying to closes down tremendously under braking. You can see the two cars following a kind of a different line through there, and that has allowed him to get right up to that rear wing of Pillay. And hopefully the slipstream will do the trick here. But at this stage, it looks like Pillay comfortably keeping in front of the BMW. So might be a question of a different strategy. Pillay running a little bit less downforce than the BMW, allowing him to keep in front. That is something we saw last night as well. Not always that easy to pass in a slipstream if you've got more downforce than the car in front of you.
I'll take a look at Tristan de Norbrigge. He's closing down onto the back of Mac van der Merwe. 10 laps done around this 5.5 kilometer circuit. That is 15.5 kilometers done and dusted for these drivers. Plenty more to go, plenty more rubber and fuel to burn as they make their way around the circuit of America. Only round 3 of the championship, as he brought up very early on into the championship, but all points matter. You want to make it all count here for the Grid Championship, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace. And once again, guys, please make sure that you go and like the videos. Also go and support us on both YouTube and Twitch.
Now, just a bit of feedback. I'm looking at the chat, Stephen. Martin Rochenbach says volume is perfect. But what I want to mention, Robert Wentworth says, I think Morgs pitted too soon. Could be wrong. What do you think about that one?
Well, let's see. Morgan, he's dropped himself down a fair amount on that last pit stop. But looking at his teammate Christian de Ploy, who has completed all his pit stops, maybe they can start running as a train. So Morgan is a little bit further down. I think he was a lap or two too early. If I would take a look at who's been in the pits so far, Morgan was the first in the pits. Alan Patterson then going down into the pits. Nicholas Manuel, Grant Sebastian, Nkube, Ryan van der Westhuizen, Peter Oosthuizen, Christian de Ploy, Daniel Dematros, Petro going and all landing up in the pits. So yeah, he's really knocked himself out of the top 10 at the moment, but anything can happen. He was only in there for 38.2 seconds, so not sure. It wasn't a tire change. It was literally a little bit of fuel, because his stationary time was 6.2 seconds. So just enough to put some fuel in and get back out there. Where a couple of the guys might look at like Peter Oosthuizen, he actually was in there for 39 minutes along with Christian de Ploy. So they actually did tire changes as well. Daniel going and staying in the pits for quite some time, though I think he suffered a little bit more damage to his vehicle. So I don't know, it's a tough call. I think he was about 2 laps too early, personally.
Well, what my personal opinion is, we have been wrong before. We've been horribly wrong before, so we might be wrong again, and he might still prove us wrong. But I think from our side, it has thrown him into a little bit of traffic. It has thrown him down the field. So if it was the correct call, I think that we'll have to see. We'll have to see if that's the correct one.
It's a tough one. It's like playing chess. With anything in sim racing or any racing or any sport, going and making these calls to make or break it of living chess. But take a look at Reina, though, getting a drive through, and that is going to be from track limits. First of our drivers to score track limits, Fidian Reina, and not going to be happy with that as he jumps across moving. It looks like he's battling with the car a little bit as moving around, so not quite the way he wants to go. Maybe doing a bit of work on the rig. You know, sometimes this, your bolt comes out, you just got to keep a number 10 spanner next to you just to tighten up once or twice.
Oh, that's normally my and your rig that does that. And I'm going to be the first to admit, the last race I did at Circuit of the Americas, I got disqualified because of track limits.
For anyone that doesn't know how the track limits work, you got 3 strikes and then you're out. So he's managed to score all 3 strikes, and I can tell you it's from cutting the curb through the likes of turn 3, 4, 5 that can actually be the cause of it, or even turn 7 being a main impact. But this drive through is going to hurt him because, like Spa, this pit lane is incredibly long.
Yeah, I mean, you're not doing a pit stop, so you're sitting there in that pit lane on that pit limiter. There's nothing you can do about it, and you know you're doing what's it, 80 kilometers? What's the speed? What's the pit limit here, Stephen? 80 kilometers an hour.
50 kilometers an hour.
50. Hey, okay, so you're literally crawling along in first gear. So you know the end of the pit lane seems towns away.
2 hours later. You need that sound effect.
Not even a few moments later.
Yeah, 2 hours later. And you can see Bago Krobler chasing down the likes of Henry Mayer, and at this moment Henry is going on the defense while Bago's all over the back of him, hoping to try and force Team Tryhard Hot Stuff. Now, I've got to bring up here 2 sister teams battling it out. You know, it originally was Team Tryhard, and then it built into Team Hybrid Academy. Now you've got a division, and we spoke to Doug Herber about this, where they say, well, they do talk, but not much. And at this moment, do you think there's any talking going on?
Not much. No, I'm going to be honest. You know, at this stage, I think the only talking Bago is doing is trying to get past Henry Mayer. I mentioned earlier while they were off screen, this is take 2 from last night. And I can guarantee you last night as well, there wasn't much talking between them. It was purely just racing.
Another person that's having a good battle here, Dean Kabasa and Sujin Pillay having a go at one another. Sujin actually making a bit of a headway on Facebook, by the way, for anyone that doesn't know, going and sharing out the tricks of how to make the sim look a little bit better using coloration and going and getting people around the world recognizing it and tinkering with their game. So giving back to the sim racing community in terms of some awesome photos and making some capture moments for him.
Yeah, I mean, I had a look at those settings and so of him. I mean, it does make the sim look a lot more vibrant. I mean, the colors stand out quite a lot more. So, good for Surgeon. I mean, having the time and the dedication to the sim to sit down and tinker with those settings, almost like you tinker with a setup of a car. So he's not just making his car drive good, he's making his sim drive good.
Just make it look good. You know, you got it. If you're going down, do it in style, as they say. So we keep an eye on Nicholas Manuel chasing onto the back of Alan Patterson. They're only 0.8 behind one another. Alan Patterson a little bit lower than where he wanted to be. He was one of the earlier pit stops early on in the race, hoping to try and get a bit of a run on everyone and claw his way through the field. Nicholas Manuel started in 21st position, jumped up to 19th. And hoping to go after Alan Patterson, who started in 14th and now is in 18th position.
Yeah, I mean, at this stage, they are almost on their own out on track. I mean, Patterson 5 seconds behind Lotus, and, you know, Manuel is 7.5 seconds in front of Sebastian. So, you know, they are in their own race at this stage, almost alone. I'm not going to say alone on track, but not really any other cars around them.
I'll take a look at Tristan de Noordbrugge going after Mac van der Merwe, this battling it out for 10th and 9th position respectively, and you can see Mac going a little bit wider, holding back the like of Tristan as they give it everything they got. Tristan really trying to go for that inside line, holding it, but unfortunately Mac has got him pretty much sorted there. The KSR vibe keeping ahead of RDSA as they battle their way around the circuit, now hard braking into the turn 20, our final corner, back onto the throttle, and it's all about carrying the tow all the way through. This is where the likes of Tristan de Noordbrugge is going to have the advantage as he guns it up the hill, looking at the back of the Audi. You can see now turning in a little bit early. Can he go for a bit of a cutback? Lets the car drift out a little bit wide, not to go and hurt the tyres there.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually looking at that steering wheel to see how stable that BMW was under acceleration out there, and it actually didn't look too bad. You know, it looks like he's got the car underneath him, but as they go through this section, this S's section, you know, it looks like the Audi's got the better rotation. Then on that last shot, it looked like he pulled out a little bit of a gap since turn 1, so definitely looks like this section is favoring the Audi.
And the Audi just having a little bit more rotation, being a mid-engine vehicle versus the likes of the brand new BMW M4 GT3. Can't say it looks prettier than the M6. I honestly think that front grille, whoever designed it, needs to be hung from the gallows, that's for certain. But has proven itself to be a very reliable car and a very robust car. While the Audi itself was also one of the cars, if you wanted to start in ACC and you wanted to be in a mid-engine car, the Audi was the most favorable for beginner drivers to drive mid-engines, and it's kept up to that. The Audi has really been a good choice for guys, and they've moved their way up on it. Up from that, I would say the other favor has to go towards the likes of the Ferrari. Porsche being one of the more difficult cars that you could drive. Honda, lots of people complain about its understeer, so it's nice to see guys going and switching up every so often.
Yeah, I mean, I normally, you know, in ACC, I drove the Bentley for a very long time, I drove the Aston for a very long time. I love the Porsche because I'm a very huge Porsche fan, and, you know, when I was racing in the Pro Division, I think I mentioned it before, I made the mistake of taking the Porsche. And it did not turn out that good for me. I was, you know, I was kicking myself for not just sticking. I was driving the Bentley everywhere else at that stage. You know, I was kicking myself for not just sticking with the Bentley and, you know, having that stability underneath me. That Porsche killed me more often than not. You know, it's got that snap oversteer to it. Once that rear end goes, you're just waiting for it to grip again and kick you out into the woods.
I'll take a look. Ryan van der Westhuizen going, and for KSR ground zero, definitely ground zero at the moment, with a drive-through penalty for track limits in the Porsche as he makes his way through. A couple of guys coming into the pits, including a Morgan McCall going and completing his second of the pit stops. He's down in 18th, going 19th position, dropping way down the order. So he's going to come out with no pit stops. Mac van der Merwe ahead of him, also no pit stops needed for him as they make their way back onto the circuit. It actually looks like Mac's got one more pit stop to go, But Morgan, first of the no more of the pit stops. We talked about early pit stops and how it can affect you. Well, we're about to find out, ladies and gentlemen, as they make their way around the circuit. 44 minutes to go for round number 3 here at COTA, Circuit of America. So it's definitely been one of these challenging circuits that have been put onto the roster, one of the newer circuits for the Assetto Corsa guys, and they're hoping to have a lot of fun out here. Been some interesting moments. Daniel Rowe now diving into the pit, so he's pitting from 4th place, going to start falling down the order to get at least one of his pit stops done and dusted. So now we start looking. 43 minutes to go, guys starting to come into the pits. Your thoughts on this, gentlemen?
Well, the one thing I wanted to say, interesting, that both the ATK drivers, McCall and Deploy, have completed their pit stops. So I think, do you think it's a team strategy of completing their pit stops this early? I know, Christian's strategy might have been affected with the incident he had early on in the race, but do you think it's a team strategy, Steve, or a coincidence?
I have to start leaning at a team strategy. Daniel Rowe, Christopher Radloff all pulling into the pits at the same time. Tristan de Norbriga opting to go into the pits. Jason McGregor opting to go in the pits. Those two aren't teammates. But Daniel Rowe and Christopher Radloff are teammates. They're in the same house as one another. Sub-team of the team. They hoping to make an impact. Knowing that they've got a bit more spacing, I think that's where it's come into play. Dean Cabasa duking it out with Pillay round number 2 as they go slug it out, BMW versus Ferrari. But I'd have to lean that it's more team orders talking to each other, trying to figure out what's going to be the ones to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, McGregor getting a stop-go 30-second penalty. That's for maybe, having a bit of a heavy right foot or letting go of the button early in the pit lane. That's going to spoil your race.
Yeah, and that's not the way that you want to do it. Stop, go 30 seconds, and he's completes his pit stop. His last pit stop actually looked like he changed tires. It was 40.3, so it looks like there was a tire change there and a bit of fuel put in. Now an extra 30 seconds on top of that for just getting on the button or getting on the throttle a little bit too quickly and eating him out there. Daniel Rowe right up against the back of Alan Patterson. Now Alan is in the top 10 at the moment, 10th place, with Daniel Rowe of the Hybrid Academy team looking to try and get by. Dives to the inside hard on the brakes. Is he going to make it stick? Alan decides he's not going to fight with it. Does a cutback though, beautifully done, and gets ahead of Daniel Rowe. So just lining him up as they fight their way through, the PWSR team and the Hybrid Academy team duking it out. We saw last season these two went, the two teams went hammer and tongs at each other, with the likes of Daniel Rowe and the likes of Cody Sherritt and Kieran Patterson going at it. Looks like Alan tried his luck, unfortunately now dropping off the back of Daniel Rowe, hoping to get a bit of clear air, and Nicholas Manuel trying to get onto the back of Alan Patterson.
Yeah, but we saw there again, when Daniel made that pass on the inside, we saw it early on in the race, between Ottens and I think it was Sherritt. He just walks him out to the outside of the track, forcing him to go over the big curbs and, losing that bit of drive. So it's almost like, the guys are using it strategically to make the pass stick on the other driver.
Oh, that's it. And as we hit the 40-minute mark, or getting close to the 40-minute mark, you can see the likes of Dean Cabasa really trying to lay on a bit of pressure. Jason McGregor now into the pits as he's going to be serving his penalty, that stop-go penalty. Gideon Rayner all by his lonesome at the moment. Daniel Rowe trying to get away from the likes of Alan Patterson. He takes a look in his mirrors and sees the likes of Nicholas Manuel. But take a look, 15th place, Christopher Radloff scoring a drive-through penalty. Once again, track limits coming into play and now starting to lay into the guys.
Yeah, and I predict we're going to see more of that as the race goes along, because Circuit of the Americas, we've discussed it before, Stephen, is hard on track limits. I mean, it's a circuit that a lot of drivers struggle at, and I think the front engined vehicles, they struggle even more because they tend to be a bit harder on that front tires and struggle with understeer even more. So let's see how many more drive-throughs can be scored tonight.
Ryan Otten's in the pits. Cody Sherritt now looking to get out of the pits. Guys starting to file their way through. 39 minutes have gone. But let's take a look down the table. And Yanamat, why don't you take us through the table of who is sitting where?
Well, currently in first place, we've got Barkhuizen, Bego Grobler in second, Henry Meyer running in third, Ryan Otten's fourth, Cody Sherritt at this stage in fifth place, Kirstein running in sixth place. Now changed, Pillay in 8th. Oh, people are doing pit stops, Steve, so this top 10 is currently all over the place, changing constantly, as we see a lot of the top 5 drivers still needing to do their pit stops. But running lastly through it, Pillay 9th, Daniel Rowe in 10th place, Alan Patterson in 11th place at this stage. But it's starting to look like the pit stops are starting to happen. 4 cars in the pits at the moment: Kirstein, Patterson, Manuel, and Radloff, which is, I assume Radloff is busy serving his drive-through penalty, maybe.
Maybe that brake is starting to get a little bit, getting it felt a little bit harder as he gets out onto the pits, or gets out onto the circuit. But let's take a look. Bernard Barkhuizen actually coming into the pits, and Bego Grobler now trying to make his way through. Looks like he's going to be taking that first place, keeping the throttle on. Henry Meyer also making his way through. So Bernard Barkhuizen going to lose out a few positions here. Dean Kabasa, I think, is a little bit further back, away from the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, but he's going to try his luck as they make their way through. So if we take a look at the track map, you can see our likes of Bernard Barkhuizen in the pits. Dean Kabasa now making his way through turn 19, hard onto the throttle. Is it going to be enough? They're catching up to the likes of Bernard Barkhuizen, and he also opts to get into the pit. So a couple of the guys just going and getting that done and dusted.
Yeah, Stephen, call that a driver's curse. Kabasa spoiling your fun a little bit there as a commentator.
Going and adding a little bit to it. I think a couple of guys that are very close to one another. Grant Sebastian, who's sitting 1.5 seconds behind Justin Lotus. Sujin Pillay chasing him down, doing everything they can. Tristan de Norbriga less than a second behind the likes of Incube of the Tinix 2 car, hoping to do battle against one another as they slug their way through. Cody Sherritt, who is on a hard charge onto the back of Bernard Barkhuizen at the moment as they claw their way around the circuit. So far, out of the top, Bernard Barkhuizen has got, Ryan Otten's, Bernard Barkhuizen, Dean Kabasa, all doing one stop. Daniel Rowe also one stop, but people that have completed all their pit stops is Morgan McCall, who is down into 15th position at the moment.
Yeah, I actually wanted to say, I think we should keep an eye on Morgan. I mean, sitting in 15th position, he's done his pit stops. He's in clear air at the moment, sitting 9 seconds behind Van der Merwe. So, at this stage, he can put the hammer down a bit, and, it can be to his advantage. So, I think we might yet be proved wrong about that very early pit stop of his. It all will depends on, Morgan now up to 13th place. But it will depend on, will those tires last? I mean, he has to do about 45 minutes on that set of tires.
Tristan Norbringer 0.3 seconds behind, hoping to try and get past Incube trying to turn in and hold him back side by side between the two as they really gun it down. Who has got the least amount of error at this point? Flat on the throttle, and looks like Tristan just dropping back into the toe, getting out once again, trying to use that slipstream. Will he be later on the brakes? Does go a little bit later than the likes of Incube, who has to go a fraction bit harder, tries to cut back, but it looks like Tristan just making it stick, but he's not running away just yet, as the RDSA Spirit Invest car is now looking to try and get away. Grant Sebastian right up to the back of Justin Lotus as they push each other along. So little battles starting to form all over the field as the guys do whatever they can. Looking at Morgan McCall's last lap time, he did a 206.3. Mac van der Merwe, that's ahead of him, did a 207.6. So he is faster than the guys ahead of him, but sitting 8.7 seconds behind. He's got a long climb before he can get back into that top 10. Cody Sherritt also in a bit of a tussle, trying to go after Bernard Barkhuizen. Bernard just keeping ahead of him, and you can see just trying to keep it all in check. That Aston Martin not moving around as much as needed. Sujin Pillay actually coming into the pits, and that has released the likes of Tristan de Norbrigge, Mac van der Merwe. Looks like Nkube actually pulling in the pits as well. Morgan McCall up into 11th place, one out of the top 10 at the moment. Remember, he does not need to pit compared to everyone above him.
Yeah, he can just take it through to the end now, and I think it would be interesting to see how many places is he going to gain. But Henry Meyer out in front, he still needs to do both his pit stops. So he's going very deep into this race. It's totally the opposite of a strategy that what Morgan McCall has got. So it would be interesting to see how those two different strategies weigh up against each other at the end of the race. I mean, as I said, total opposite strategy.
And also take a look, Justin Lotus falling in the same strategy as well, just going a little bit later. So it's going to be interesting. Henry Mayer, actually, you talk about the devil, and he gets into the pits. He decides, no, he's going to run out of juice. So he's going to pull in the pits and get done and dusted with his round. And take a look at Grant Sebastian up on the inside as we just cut to it. Justin Lotus going and getting by there. Absolutely fantastic. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a replay. And you can see nice braking. Gets it in, sinks it, makes it work. And now climbing his way back up. So beautifully done as they're going a little bit later onto the brakes.
Yeah, I also want to say, beautiful livery on that car of Sebastian. I mean, and hey, a quick look there, has he got the Nürburgring there on the side?
And this is the BMW. So this livery is a very interesting livery. It was for the BMW Time Attack, which was released on Assetto Corsa Competizione. That gave people an opportunity to try and put in the quickest laps and see who is the fastest. He's opting to take it. That's why you can see the Thrustmaster livery. It is the Time Attack, the official BMW Time Attack cars, as he drives the Heartbreak Motorsport car into the pits. So just a little bit of information of what that livery is. It's just to go and prove what you can do in the Time Attack in Assetto Corsa Competizione.
Oh, interesting. Nürburgring is the long Nürburgring is one of those love-hate tracks. You either love it or you hate it when you go racing on there.
Well, Mac van der Merwe 1.5 seconds behind Tristan de Norbrigge. Morgan McCall 7.5 behind him. Daniel Rowe is a 1.5 going after Cody Sherritt. These two know each other all too well, and after the last championship or the last season, they looking to go and square up against one another once again. Now the pit stop's starting to come in. Who's left to do it? Morgan McCall, once again, is the only one that has completed all his pit stops that's within the top 10. So managing just to eke out a little bit there. Grant Sebastian, followed by Alan Patterson, Nicholas Manuel, Sujin Pillay, Dean Kabasa, Nkube, Oosthuizen, Van der Westhuizen, and Deploy, all completing their pit stops with the likes of Jason McGregor. He's got one left to do. Eric Christain, Christopher Radloff, and Gideon Reyna has got one stop. Tristan de Norbrigge has got one stop. Mac van der Merwe has got one stop. Only one that's still sticking out there is Justin Lotus, who has got 2 stops left in this race. 30 minutes and 20 seconds to go of this fantastic race. Round number 3 of the Grid Championship Series, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace. Janneman, 23 laps in, 5.5 kilometers per lap. Do you think the drivers are starting to feel it?
Yeah, you're going to start feeling it on a track like this. This is, you do have places to relax a little bit, like the 2 straights, but sector 1, sector 3 on this track, it takes a lot of concentration, and to not run wide, to sometimes out of some corners, keeping that rear end just a little bit in check. You know, there's not a lot of places, or actually no place in Sector 1 and Sector 3 to relax. As we have a look here at, Kristen, the Norbriga with Meyer and Lotus. I mean, these three with 29 minutes to go find themselves together on the track and battling it out. And so we have a look there, Justin Lotus, trying to find his way past, following closely there. Does look like the Audi's got a little bit of an advantage over that BMW through this tight and twisters. It is a rear engine to a front engine as he looks on the inside, going side by side through. He wants to make the pass before the long straight. Steve, how good of an idea is that? Because now, the BMW can sit behind him and sit in that slipstream and possibly retake that position at the end of the straight.
Well, I think at this point, Mac has got his eyes focused on Tristan just ahead. Justin Lotus going and not putting up too much of a fight, realizing that it may be a little bit more advantageous to go and sit in the slipstream, seeing that Mac is able to carry a lot more corner speed, so rather use him as a battering ram. But while that whole little fight was going on, Morgan McCall now starting to close in on the back of them. We saw in the previous shot that we could see that Mercedes starting to get closer and closer to this little battle. But Tristan currently leading out of these top three, well, the 7th, 8th and 9th position at the moment. I don't know. I think it was a good move. It was a really good move of Mac van der Merwe just to get past. He's running a little bit quicker in lap times. Last lap he did was a 2:07.2, where Justin Lotus did a 2:11.7. So hoping that he's a little bit quicker, gets past, focus on the attack. And he's going after Tristan de Norbriga, who, as they come across the line, did a 2:08.5, while Mac van der Merwe did a 2:08.1. So he is running quicker lap times. Don't want to hang around someone who's a little bit slower, and rather focus on getting that 7th position.
Yeah, I mean, he's van der Merwe is closing up to the back of the Norbriga, fairly quickly. So I think this is a battle that we're going to see developing within the next lap or two, as he's now only 0.9 of a second behind him. And he's obviously keeping an eye on the rest of the field as well, trying to figure out what is his net position. But having said that, most of the guys around him have already done one pit stop. It's just Morgan McCall that's creeping ever closer, and he's completed his pit stop. He's running to the end of the race. So now only 2.6 seconds behind Justin Lotus. He's closing this gap fairly quickly.
I'll take a look. Morgan McCall now right up behind the likes of Justin Lotus, getting pushed along, hoping to keep it to the toe. Justin going to the middle of the circuit, trying to defend as much as possible. Looking up on the inside, hard on the brakes. Can he make it stick? It's going to be difficult, but just getting ahead of Justin Lotus and moving into 9th position. So we talked about undercutting the field. Would it be enough? Well, at the moment, into the top 10 after dropping way down the order, I think he's that was actually a beneficial move at this point, but he has to maintain those positive deltas if he wants to keep up the pace to close down on the rest of the field, in hopes of getting into that top 5 to help his championship at the moment.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, we need to keep in mind, he just got past Lotus, and Lotus has not made a pit stop yet. So, I think with 25 minutes to go, running almost an hour now on that set of tires, I think those front tires on that BMW is pretty shot at this stage.
That's things to talk about. Nicholas Manuel, who is going after Alan Patterson, also going after position. So a couple of guys up and down through the field, hoping to get a little bit closer. Bernard Barkhuizen, Cody Sherritt still duking out. They keeping in tow with one another. Not fighting all too hard at the moment, but just hoping to carry enough momentum as they fight their way around the circuit. Here at the Circuit of America, big welcome to everyone, and if you just joined us, thank you very, very much for joining us. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're on YouTube, and if you're on Twitch under Mettlestate, make sure you hit follow, and if you feel like it, subscribe as well. It's always nice and handy. Hit that like button as well, just to let us know you're enjoying the content, and please let us know if you would like to come and race with us. Go and look up RaceFace.Pro. Go and join in for next season, or carrying on to the different seasons. We have multiple different classes. Our pro class, as you see on screen, we've got our pro am, we've got our am class, we've also got our gold and silver division, all full of drivers, all different skill levels, slugging it out, hoping to become a champion in each and every single one of them. But the Grid Championship focusing on the big prize pool of 10,000 Rand, and that's what our pro drivers at the moment are going for.
I mean, absolutely, it's a prize pool that I certainly won't mind, you know, having a small part of. I mean, and that is how big this championship, this pro division, Steve, has become. As we have a look at Van der Merwe, you know, at the back of the Norbriga, you know, trying to see where, almost studying the car in front of him, trying to see where he's quicker, where the Norbriga is quicker, what's the advantage he's got in that Audi. But as we've seen throughout the night, you know, this sector coming up, this first sector, as you have a small little look there on the inside, just, you know, letting the Norbriga know he's there. I think this next first sector that's coming up, we're going to see that Audi having a bit of an advantage over that BMW. Although aero wash might be an issue, I think he's going to close up to the back of that BMW as they run through here. That Audi just, you know, looks like it's got more rotation through this sector. The BMW not as, you know, not rotating as quickly as the Audi.
Oh, you can see that he's really pushing hard, but how much is he impacting those front tires at the moment? Is he's really focusing on the car to pivot on them as much as necessary. Now through the fast sweep, heading into the hairpin. This is all about getting a little bit later on the brakes, scoring it. You actually mustn't go too fast into the corner. You got to back it off quite a bit, go into first gear, then get back on the throttle. So it's actually a slow corner, and very easy to run too far wide just by carrying a little bit too much momentum. You think, oh, I should be going a little bit quicker, but the moment that you're at least about 5 kilometers quicker into that corner, it's an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, oh, a little bit of contact there from Van der Merwe, just too late on the brakes. So a little bit of a touch there, but it doesn't look like there's any damage done. So, you know, they can carry on fighting here, but he's certainly trying to, you know, find a way past that BMW of the Norbriga one way or another. So it definitely looks at this stage of the race where that Van der Merwe's got the better car underneath him.
I'll take a look a little bit further back. Justin Lotus actually going out wide, lying Eric Kirstein and the likes of Christopher Radloff to get by. Christopher Radloff just going in, launching through his teammate. A little bit further up ahead, looks like Cody Sherritt trying to go on the attack, and just further down, Mac van der Merwe back on the charge. So within the top 10, guys are starting to duke it out. They're just out of the top 10. Gideon Rayner and Nicholas going and battling out with Justin Lotus. Alan Patterson feeling the pressure from Nicholas Manuel as we keep on screen with Mac van der Merwe up on the inside. Can he make it stick? Oh, a little bit of a bump over there. Just saying, listen, thanks for coming through. Don't let the door hit you on the way in, as he manages to get by. But Mac making it stick and keeping it all together. Now it's all about carrying that momentum through. You can see Tristan really putting some pressure onto the back of him, hoping to try and force a mistake out of him.
Yeah, but I think the Audi's got the upper hand through this sector. I mean, we saw the previous lap how much more that Audi looked planted. As we have a look now at Manuel and Patterson going at it side by side. Manuel trying to make that pass. He's just got that BMW on the rear bumper of that Aston Martin. He's going to stick it on the inside. Alan keeps to the outside and doing the cutback beautifully. That's the problem with turn one. If you get the line wrong there, trying to make the pass.
Yeah, as we caught to a bit of a beautiful pass there, and well, You got to try and go back at it once again, a little bit further back though. Take a look at this. Mac van der Merwe, Tristan de Norbrugge, Morgan McCall, all now into one tow. Morgan getting a little bit twitchy onto the brakes. The ATK sim racing driver hoping to catch up to the RDSA, and Mac van der Merwe, all the KSR Vibe team looking to try and keep it all together as they slug it out. It looks like Cody Sherritt now into the pits to complete his pit stop. Bago Kroblo coming by, so he's going to drop down in position. Henry Mayer also coming past the pits. Mac van der Merwe, Tristan de Norbrugge, Morgan McCall. So Cody Sherritt losing out a lot of time here and is hoping that he gets out just ahead of these guys as he waits to get in the pits. Mac van der Merwe making his way through. Tristan now going on the defensive. Morgan McCall right behind him, really trying to force out a move as they get back onto the power. Is it going to be enough though? Cody Sherritt looks like he's still coming out of the pits with this battle chasing him down. Oh, it's going to be close. He's going to have to go hammer and tongs at this point if he wants to keep away from this little battle happening here. Morgan sending it up on the inside. A little bit of rubbing racing there and managing to get by. So Morgan up into 8th place. Tristan going down into 9th. And Mac van der Merwe starting to open up that gap just a fraction more.
So now with you know, Cody was the first of the front runners to complete his last pit stop. So now we can see on track where Morgan McCall is compared to the front runners, Stephen, and he's not that far behind. So
well, there is a little bit of a map going and showing, and we're looking out for 164, which is Ryan Ottens, as we can see is over here with a big triangle. And then you got the likes of Morgan McCall a little bit further down, just getting onto that back straight. So he's about half a circuit's length away at the moment to go after first place. So a little bit of distance, but hoping to try and make his way through. But one thing he's got to worry about is Cody Sherritt, who has pitted a little bit later than him, has completed all these pit stops, and he's got one position separating the two of them. Mac van der Merwe stuck as Biggie in the middle, still has one pit stop to go, but he is holding back the likes of Morgan McCall. A little bit further down, we've got the likes of Nicholas Manuel all over the back of Alan Patterson. Drives up on the inside, tries to make it stick. Now who's going to be later on the brakes? Just going a little bit hard. Nicholas Manuel going for that apex, runs over the apex, runs it out wide. Alan Patterson going onto the dirt a little bit, but it looks like Manuel able to make it stick. Gideon Rayner also trying to get onto the back of Christopher Radloff. Tried doing the same move as he saw up ahead, but not working out to plan as they get back onto the power. Gideon now 0.2. There is literally just a fraction of daylight between these two, and you can see Christopher Radloff going to the middle of the circuit, trying to hold back the Kinetic Sim Works Racing Vibe team as they battle their way around this course. And my heavens, what a fight. Morgan McCall right onto the back of Mac van der Merwe, now hoping to charge, seeing Cody Sherritt just ahead of him, and the two are battling it out for a championship. So as soon as you see your rival ahead of you that's in the championship running, you want to try to get past him. You want to put some daylight between the two of you and maximize your points, I think. But take a look for Under Vesthuizen getting another drive-through penalty. He's down in 21st position, and that's not helping his case.
No, I mean, that spoils your race just even further. But you know, coming back to this battle of McCall and May, was it McCall and Van der Merwe? Sorry, you know, this is the case, you know, where McCall is, well, he's actually very close at this stage, but at the end of the last lap, you know, you're hoping for the guy in front of you to just make that car disappear, to make you lose as little time as possible. But he's now, at this stage, stuck behind Van der Merwe, who still needs to do his last pit stop. Now he's forced to do that pass on track. You know, coming to the end of this long straight, he's not close enough that we see that car twitching again under braking. You know, trying to brake as late as possible. He's going to have a look on the inside here, and that is well done by Morgan McCall to make the pass through that corner. But Van der Merwe not giving up. He's sticking to the back of that Mercedes. But you know, it will have to remain to be seen if that Audi is going to come into the pits anytime soon. But looks like McCall made that pass stick, as we've got another drive through for Nkube. So Steve, drive throughs are now starting to stack up.
Yeah, guys starting to have more and more issues with one another as they have to try and keep it all together. Christopher Radloff right onto the back of Renault, also running a little bit onto the track limits, but he's hoping that he maybe, just maybe, has enough in the tank to get past the likes of Renault, who's just ahead of him, turns it in. Renault's got the inside line, hopes for a cutback, but looks like Renault just going and stopping dead on that apex, saying, no thank you, buddy. You're not going to get past in an easy run. We're going to let you fight it out properly. But yeah, the more the guys are starting to push, the more tired they're getting. These cars are starting to understeer or oversteer. The tires starting to drop off. His track limits now coming into play. More and more drive-throughs as time goes on. 14 minutes and 16 seconds left of the race, and we got Ryan Ottens in first place, Bernard Barkhuizen in second, Daniel Rowe in third, Bernard Bagel Krobler in fourth place, all still needing to do a pit stop when they got the likes of Cody Sheraton, Morgan McCall, who all they have to do is race it till the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry, Steve. I'm just having a quick look at the chat here again. And Robert Wentworth yet again with a comment. And he says, Rottens is flying. Obviously, that's Ryan Ottens.
Rottens. He tends to get all different names. You could swear he's from the Hocus Pocus movie. You know, if it's Rottens and Hottens, going for Ottens. Will he get to the top? Nobody knows. Sort of nursery rhyme that can be chucked in there. I'm not a musical artist, but what I can say at the moment is really putting in some great work. 31 laps completed, but it's not over just as yet. He's got a 5.7 second gap between himself and second place, but as we know, that pit stop, if you take a look at the amount of time that guys are spending in the pits, they're spending about 30 to 40 seconds in the pits. Doesn't matter if you're changing tires, putting fuel in. That's the rough amount of time. 39 seconds to 40 seconds is the time limit there. And to put that type of spacing, it's not easy to do.
Yeah, you know, that's where you want that crew chief or somebody on that pit wall that can work out that gap. And I'm sure if they can, you know, Ottens is asking how far is Sherrod behind me? How far is McCall behind me? Because those are the guys that have completed their pit stop. They're racing to the end, you know, and it's valuable if you've got somebody to work that kind of stuff out for you, so that you know I should push harder, or you know I am in the safety zone of getting out in front of them once I've completed my pit stop.
Well, also taking a look over to the Twitch chat on the Mettlestate Twitch. A big thank you to Strange Since Birth with the Tier 1 sub. So thank you for the Tier 1 sub, Strange Since Birth. Well, I've always been Strange Since Birth. I think it was even before birth as well.
Long before birth.
It was kind of the thought process to it was strange. Jason McGregor going and scoring a drive-through penalty as we keep an eye on the battle of Nicholas Manuel and Alan Patterson. A little bit further up, Tristan de Norbrigger getting onto the back of Mac van der Merwe, hoping to get a little bit closer to one another. Guys are a little bit more spread out at the moment. Big difference being from 5th to 4th. Cody Sherrod 26.7 seconds away from this man over here, Bego Krobler, who is in 4th place at the moment, still needing to pit. So he's stuck a bit of daylight. Will it be enough when he pulls into the pits? Well, we're going to have to find out. And he's radioing into his teammates just a little bit ahead of Daniel Rowe and Ryan Ottens, saying, guys, we got to look at pitting, we got to put a bit of spacing here, and we've got to push hard.
Yeah, I mean, they leaving it right up till the end. You know, there's not much left of that pit window. There's must be about 5 minutes left to pit, so you know they will have to start thinking about making pit stops in the next 2 laps or so.
As we take a look to the likes of Grant Sebastian of the Heartbreak Motorsport going after Dean Kabasa of the Tinex 2 car as they battle it out, the 2 BMW M4 GT3 cars, new 2020 edition cars. They've really been taking the motor racing scene by storm, going and slugging it out with one another as you know, this is where it's a bit of fun. You're fighting 16th and 17th, they're still fighting for points in the championship, hoping to maximize it and still having a good go at one another. I know in the pits these two were busy ragging each other of who's going to be the quickest. Well, we're about to find out between the 2 purple cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's a case of consistency almost. You know, for me it was always, I'm not the fastest guys out there, but I was always looking for that when I was racing. That, top 10 was like a race win for me, but I was looking between 10th and 15th position, and what I mean is, if you can consistently be in that sort of position, you can find yourself actually in a very decent position in the championship at the end of the day.
Nicholas Manuel still trying his best to go after the PWSR driver of Alan Patterson. So ZAR M4, the ZAR racing team cheering on Nicholas, who is currently in 12th place, going after Alan Patterson. And really on a hard charge. Started in 21st, moved up to 19th. Alan Patterson started in 14th, now in 18th position. So losing out a bit of time there, he was able to claw his way back. But it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, and the other thing I can say, Alan is really starting to make me and you look bad, the way he's performing in this pro division, and I think we can safely say at this stage he is the quickest commentator amongst us.
Well, Bernard Barkhuizen into the pits, gets down off the jacks, now starting to roll out, and I think he just has enough daylight between himself and the likes of Cody Sherritt. As Cody's making his way around the final corner, Bernard looking to try and just get out, and it looks like the Hybrid Academy driver's just ahead of him in the Honda NSX. Cody Sherritt making his way through. Now it's heading up into turn 1. It's going to be very tight between the two. Cody Sherritt just getting ahead of Bernard Barkhuizen as he exits the pits. And you want to talk about only catching it by a hair? Well, that's the way to do it. Cody Sherritt now up into 4th place, able to go and maximize that 26-second deficit and move his way all the way up into 4th. Now has his eyes firmly set on Bago Krobler, who is sitting 26.5 seconds ahead in 3rd place.
Yeah, certainly, Stephen. I'm just having watching the timetables, and it does look like Morgan McCall, is losing a little bit of ground over Cody. Cody has opened up 1 or 2 seconds extra of a gap since he came out the pit. So brings me back to that early pit stop strategy of Morgan. Is it starting to bite him a little bit now that it's with 7 minutes to go? He does not have the car underneath him that Cody's got.
I'll just take a look. His last lap time was a 207.6 for the ATK driver, while the likes of Cody Sherritt did a 206.8. Right in between them is Bernard Barkhuizen, who is on his own little charge. But taking a look, Cody's actually quicker than on his last lap, quicker than 1st, 2nd and 3rd. Ryan Otten's actually coming into the pits, so he's opting to get himself all sorted. That's going to also be Daniel Rowe jumping into the pits, Bago Krobler jumping into the pits. So Cody Sherritt, he needs to really step up his game if he wants to try and get anywhere close to these guys. And let's keep an eye on the timetable. So I'm going to just put our track back up, and you can see the likes of Ryan Ottens now starting to claw his way through. Here is Cody Sherritt, who's still heading his way into turn 19. Turn 20 and getting back onto the throttle. Ryan Otten starting to exit the pits. Daniel Rowe starting to exit the pits. And looks like Bago as well exiting the pits. Here comes Cody Sherritt. How close can he make it though? Really trying to get it, but take a look. I think that is Deploy with a very broken nose. Yeah, that is definitely Deploy with a very broken nose. But Cody Sherritt now managing to get himself into 2nd place at the moment. But yeah, Deploy looking a little bit second hand there in his big Mercedes, not having the best of runs at the moment.
No, absolutely. And while you were describing the action going on there, I was having a good chuckle in the background, and I'm starting to wonder, is Ryan Ottens reading the chat on the YouTube channel? Because just before Ryan Ottens pitted, Robert Wentworth on the chat said, Ryan box.
Okay, so a little bit of team orders going on around here. That's going and leaning in. We've got a formula. We've got new type of pit stop strategies here. We've in-car. We've seen it happen where guys send in-car messages. It's not the first time, but I'm sure the conversation wasn't a very nice box. I'm sure there was some colourful words added in at this point of trying to figure it out. But Ryan Otten's just getting up ahead. Cody Sherritt trying to chase him down. Cody is 4.4 seconds. Bernard Barkhuizen 4.3 seconds behind. Morgan McCall in 4th place, followed by Daniel Rowe, Tristan de Norbrigge, Bago Krobler, Henry Meyer, Mac van der Merwe, and Alan Patterson going and rounding out our top 10 at the moment. That are all slugging it out, but Nicholas Manuel looking to try and get Alan Patterson out of that tow, as he's 0.8 seconds behind, looking to try and close down that gap on the PWSR driver.
Yeah, and we're now sitting with 4 minutes to go. Just Tristan de Norbrigge, having to do pit stop. He's leaving it very late, but all the rest of the guys, they've done their pit stops. This is, except for Tristan, this is the order they are running in. This is now the race till the end. Just another quick comment here on the Facebook chat. Oculus Racing giving a shout out to ZA Racing Team. He says, let's go, Nick. And Robert Wentworth going and saying Nick will get a top 10.
Well, so Nicholas Manuel getting support from Devin Delport, who is Oculus Racing and leader of the ZAR team. And going supporting, we saw Devin Delport racing earlier in the year. Earlier in the season, and unfortunately bowing out of it, but supporting his team no matter what through it all. And so is Robert Wentworth, part of the ZAR racing team as well, brother to William Wentworth, who is also racing here at RaceFace. We do have one retirement though, and unfortunately that was Sujin Pillay retiring early on. He did 28 laps before calling it quits, and unfortunately running into difficulty. So we hope to see him coming back out for the next race next week, and come back in full force with some fantastic images, some fantastic racing, and showing that the Fiat Ferrari will be one to keep an eye out for. But this little battle here between Nicholas Manuel and Alan Patterson has changed up. Now Alan Patterson down in 11th place, chasing down Nicholas Manuel, who has got himself into the top 10 and looking to try and stretch his legs a little bit.
Yeah, but that Alan looked a bit more composed through that last corner, closing up right to the back of Manuel. So Alan is not done yet. I think he wants his position back. He wants his top 10 back. I think it will be a second top 10 for Alan. I think he scored a top 10 in the first race as well. So I don't think he's going to give up, although Manuel has, opened up a slight little gap through that section. Alan closes right up to the back of him, and he wants to sit in that slipstream. Now Manuel trying to break that slipstream a bit, and if I remember correctly, they're not allowed to weave on this back straight, so he can only move once to break that slipstream, and then he needs to sit, and Alan can take advantage of it. But Alan a bit far back, late on the brakes, closes up, almost a bit of contact there.
Getting super close to one another. Also some close racing is these two still going at it. Hammer and tongs, Grant Sebastian and Dean Cabasa, they are still going hammer and tongs at one another. Alan Patterson going and sliding his way through, trying to get up onto the back of Nicholas Manuel as he fights his way through. So little battles going on, but so close. And I'm talking about Dean Cabasa is literally 0.1 of a second difference. So is Alan Patterson. So Dean Cabasa going late on the brakes, trying to get ahead of Grant Sebastian. Can he make it stick? Looks like he does. Alan Patterson trying to get a little bit closer. He's really trying to force his way through. And these are the little battles that we love to see. Guys duking it out and giving it everything they got right until the last minute. Cody Sherritt, who's trying to get by, he's a little bit slower this time around. Now having to try and close down onto the back of Ryan Ott. It's 4.1 seconds behind. But while we take a look at these little battles that are going around, why don't you take us through who is where at the moment in the last 55 or 50 seconds of the race?
Right, with less than a minute to go, Ryan Otten's in the first place, then followed less than 4 seconds behind by Cody Sherritt. Barkhuizen third. Morgan McCall has moved up to 4th position, then Bago Krobler 5th, Daniel Rowe 6th, Henry Meyer in 7th position, then we've got Van der Merwe 8th, Tristan de Norbrigge is in 9th position, but according to this he still needs to do his last pit stop, and then 10th we've got Manuel, 11th Patterson. So interesting, Steve, why does De Norbriga still needs to do a pit stop according to the timing sheets.
Well, taking a look at this, the pit window is closed, so even if he pits now, it will not count. And he's going to get penalized severely for it. Around about 30 seconds, I think he didn't put fuel in, and that's what's done it, because you have to put at least a liter of fuel in for it to count as a pit stop. He has not, and that has now bitten him hard. As we take a look at Ryan Otten's now making his way through. He's opened up the gap to the likes of Cody Sherritt, who is lying in second place trying to chase him down. Bernard Barkhuizen doing whatever he can to try and make up a bit of a move. 11th place, you can see Alan Patterson doing a little bit of a charge at the moment, but our leader, who is making his way through, a couple more corners to go, is Ryan Ottens, who managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat at this point. Started in second place, going to be finishing up in first if he can keep it all together as they battle their way around the course. Take a look at Peter Oosthuizen though. He's right onto the back of Grant Sebastian, looking to try and go for a pass as well. So the guys are really focusing on a bit of a race at the moment.
Yeah, it isn't over until it's over, so there is still a position to be gained. You know, Peter Westhuizen right at the back on Sebastian there as we join Ryan Ottens. He's now on the back straight. You can see Cody Sherritt there in the background. Got a bit of a comfortable gap. You know, only the last sect to go now as he goes out of that long straight, so it's only those tights and twisties to follow as we go back to Peter Westhuizen, you know, following Grant Sebastian here. Steve, I think, you know, they still have another lap to go.
That's it, and Killian Rayner trying to get onto the back of Alan Patterson as we wait for our leader to make his way through. And there we go, as the sun begins to set here at Circuit of America. 2 corners to go. Ryan Ottens going to be closing up with the win here at Circuit of America's round number 3 of the Grid Championship in the GT3 Aston Martin AMR V8, and going to be happy with that. Cody Sherritt going to be following out in second place. Bernard Barkhuizen in a third place. The likes of Alan Patterson going and still battling out with Rayner as we follow through. Morgan McCall is in fourth place. Fifth place go to Bago Krobler. Daniel Rowe and Mayer getting close to one another, but it does look like guys are starting to run out of juice a bit here. Daniel Rowe coming across the line, Henry Mayer losing out, as it's still a bit of a ding-dong battle for the likes of 10th and 11th place at the moment.
You know, interesting thing is Tristan de Norbriga. Oh, we see a little bit of RG racing there, but I want to mention Tristan de Norbriga looks like he did another pit stop because he's fallen to 14th place, but I don't think it helped him in any way.
Not at all, and that's changed up the race for them as we keep an eye on the guys really doing a bit of a ding-dong battle. Alan Patterson trying everything he can to keep it all together, but losing out right when it comes to the line. Still trying a little bit of side-by-side, but Patterson just getting caught out by Gideon Rayner. And what a race has been as more and more cars start coming their way through. You can see Tristan de Norbriga starting to fall down. But let's take a look at our timetable to let us know who finished where. So, Janneman, do you want to take us through who finished where after 38 laps here at Circuit of Americas?
Absolutely. Winner Ryan Ottens, followed by Cody Sherritt, Bernard Barkhuizen in third. Then Morgan McCall brought it home in fourth place, Bago Krobler fifth, Daniel Rowe sixth place, Henry Mayer scoring the fastest lap in seventh place, then Van der Merwe eighth, Nicholas Manuel made ninth, Gideon Renner 10th, Alan Pattinson eventually missing out on that top 10 in 11th place. 12th, we've got Christopher Radloff. 13th, Eric Gustain. Then Dean Cabasa in 14th place. Grant Sebastian 15th. Westhuizen 16th. Tristan de Norbriga 17th. Nkube bringing it home in 18th. 19th, McGregor. 20th, Justin Lotus. That is our top 20 for tonight.
And 21st, Ruan van der Westhuizen managing to cross the line. Sujin Pillay being our early retirement, unfortunately. Tristan de Norbriga, though, going and suffering a penalty. You want to talk about missing out big time? Well, Tristan de Norbriga going and scoring 115-second penalty for missing out one pit stop. By missing out
Ouch.
putting 1 litre in the car, it dropped him down to 17th position. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's truly been an honor having you guys here, both on our Twitch at Mettlestate. Big thank you to you guys, and thank you for Strange Since Birth going and subscribing that 1 tier, but also to you guys out on YouTube. Make sure that you go and hit that subscribe button, that like icon. We love to see it, we love to have it. And anything closing from you, Jonathan?
No, same as last night, I'm a bit out of breath. It was an awesome race. Very much looking forward to next week to see what these guys are going to dish out at each other. I mean, they truly take racing to a whole new level, Stephen.
When you're a pro, and you know it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, from Jonathan Press, the world's slowest alien, and myself, Stephen Koenig, the world's fastest backmarker. We'll see you next week right here for the Grid Championship, brought to you by Mettlestate and RaceFace. Enjoy your evening.